G'day there guys, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Asshole? Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chug a prawn of the Barbie, and get ready for it. Am I the asshole for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll? I, 26 male, have been with my still girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 4 years. Last year, I gave her a key to my house. She spends a few days there, but we don't live together full time. A few days ago, I had to make a quick trip for work. She asked me if she could invite a few of her friends to the house for a girls' night. It was on Thursday, and I accepted. I returned yesterday in the morning. The first thing I noticed was the rag doll missing from the wall. My first instinct was to call my girlfriend to ask if she had put it somewhere. She denied it and said the doll was there. It wasn't. I checked the GPS of the doll. Yes, it has GPS, and the GPS marked the house of one of her friends. Let's call her Jess. I tried to be nice and told my girlfriend to tell her friend to bring it back before 5 p.m. and I'll pretend this never happened, or I will involve the police. She tried to fight, but I told her about the GPS. Well, my girlfriend called me back, saying that Jess denied having the doll. We had a huge argument and warned her that I wasn't playing about getting the police involved. I waited until 5 and went to the police. We went to her house and got the doll back, and I pressed charges. My girlfriend and I had a bigger argument about me pressing charges. They, including her, know the doll was made by my father. They could have stolen anything else, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I gave her friend a chance, and she tried to play stupid. They've been calling me an asshole and asking me to drop the charges. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I might be the asshole for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll when I could retrieve it by myself without involving the police. To me, the issue with you going to retrieve it yourself without involving the police is the potential for it to escalate from there. I think if you involve them from the get-go, it takes the onus off of you and forces them to give you the doll back without a break-and-enter situation, without a violent situation from the police's lens. I personally think you did the right thing here, and I don't understand why they lied to you so much along the way. So I'm gonna go with not the asshole for this one. And now in the comments, not the asshole, and definitely don't drop the charges. To me, it's all about principle ATP. Your girlfriend should have supported you. She chose to support her friend. You gave her friend the opportunity to handle this without involving the police, but she declined. You were robbed, and you've been more than fair about it. Not the asshole. Why should you drop the charges? You told your girlfriend that you knew without a doubt that her friend had your doll because of the GPS, and the friend still lied. Why do people always think that people should get away with stupid crap because they are a friend of a friend? What she did was wrong, and you gave her the opportunity to make it right before involving the law, and she chose not to. Why is your girlfriend defending her thief friend? You are most definitely not the asshole. The fact your girlfriend and her friend, I'm assuming that they were both in on it, which may not be the case, stole the doll in the first place, is incredibly rude, and sure enough illegal. Then to try and bluff it out and say the doll wasn't at the second girlfriend's house, when obviously it was, is over the top stupid. Your girlfriend was in on this, or at least knew about it, and still is trying to get you to drop the charges. I wouldn't just be thinking about breaking up with her, it would have been done and gone as soon as the doll was back in your possession. I can't imagine anyone staying as a guest in someone else's home actually stealing something. Anything, no matter if it was a toothpick or one of Elvis's gold records, would be totally out of my repertoire of behaviors, and I wouldn't put up with it from anyone else. And now up to the post, we have an edit. I will answer some of your questions here. If you have more, I will try to answer them. The doll is with me. It's a rag doll. Better said, it's a Raggedy Ann doll. My father had many more hobbies. He tried making dolls and was planning to sell them, but the first one he made was a frickin' Raggedy Ann doll, so it didn't last. He was too manly to sell Raggedy Ann dolls, which is ridiculous, I know. He gave me that one, and actually, he made 4 more for my best friends. The doll was hanging in my room, but once he passed away, I hung it in the living room. It has X's as eyes and looks creepy because it looks dead. It has a GPS because my home was robbed 7 months ago. I don't care if they clean the house as long as they leave the doll. I have more expensive items that she could have stolen, so I don't know why she would steal the bloody doll other than a sick joke. And my girlfriend has never complained about it, at least not to me. I haven't talked to her, other than telling her to drop the charges. I will talk to her tomorrow to find out why she let her friend take the doll. They've been here before and never did anything like this. And about our relationship, because right now, I'm thinking about breaking up. I hope I do this right. Before the update, I want to give some context about why the doll is so important to me and to correct myself for saying that he was too manly to sell dolls. My father got sick just before I was 15, kidney failure. He retired and filled his time with hobbies. A year after his diagnosis, I came from school one day and he was finishing the doll. I asked him if he was going to sell it. He said yes, but not anymore. I asked him why, and he replied with, "Who would buy a doll from a man who looks angry 24/7? Before his diagnosis, my father would have laughed about it. He would have made more to fill a big box, knock on every door and sell them all. But now, he was worried about what people would say. If he could sell them, anxious, less energetic, less confident, doubtful, afraid. None of this was in his mind before. The illness was not only beating his body, but also his mind. We thought that we had made peace with his disease and the time he had left, but reality finally caught up with us. It was a turning point in the way that we moved forward. I have other things that my father made. I carry some with me, others are in a safe. I tried to put the doll in a box, in a closet, I even tried to give it away once. I just don't have the heart to do it. It gives me peace to see it out there. The tracker may seem excessive, but not for me. My ex knew about this. And now, on to the update. Many of you hit the nail on the head. My ex came over yesterday. She was a mess. She explained that she actually had a problem with the doll, but instead of telling me, she went to her friends. They told her that it was creepy, weird for a grown man to have a doll, and that I was too attached to it. This only reinforced her feelings. This was a regular topic between them, and they came up with ideas to get rid of the doll, but she never followed them, until Thursday. Her friends were fed up with her for not doing something, as we were planning to move in together. Before they left, my ex and Jess talked. They agreed that Jess would take the doll, and my ex would take care of the rest. My ex forgot the GPS, and when I confronted her, she panicked. She actually called Jess and told her about it, but Jess told her not to worry, that I wouldn't do anything about it. But she was obviously wrong. I broke up with her. She tried to plead and even suggested couples therapy, but I just couldn't stand being with her anymore. I called my lawyer, and I told them that we can continue with the process, but nothing will come out of it, even with my ex's confession. He will try either way. I've already changed the locks and I'm buying cameras for the whole house. I would like to thank all of you who took the time with my mess. I never thought that this would get the attention that it got. I'll try to answer some more questions if you have them, and I hope everything goes well with all of you, and thank you again. Now in the comments, we can go to couples therapy. My response would have been, why? I didn't do anything wrong. This is a you problem. It's a good thing that that doll had GPS. He would not have gotten that back otherwise. Ha, excellent. I recommend you do that with your idiot friends. Heirlooms from a dead parent, no matter how meaningless or trivial they might appear to others, are priceless and irreplaceable. OP's ex must be brain dead to think taking the doll wouldn't be a big deal. The only thing I had of my father's was a digital watch. I wore it to make homecoming floats a year after he died. It was 90+ degrees in the building, and I took it off because the band was plastic. Frickin' Jason stole it. I still hate him 25 years later. With any luck, a mosquito will bite him in the center of his back, where he can't reach to scratch it, and that he randomly steps on a single Lego brick or 4-sided die when he gets up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And that someone at the office randomly tips and spills a bunch of thumbtacks onto his seat just as he's sitting down. Nail was hit right on the head. I feel bad for OP though. It's obviously incredibly meaningful to him, and the fact that his girlfriend was willing to destroy that and hurt him for nothing more than not having to see it is despicable. A real partner would say, hey, I find this creepy, but I know that it means a lot to you. Can you move it to some place that I don't have to see it all the time? But, why communicate when you can attempt to destroy highly personal items and destroy your entire relationship in the process? So she knew how much it meant to OP and still decided to go behind his back without ever actually telling him. Yeah, stealing the doll is one thing, but the avoiding conflict with your partner and sneaking behind their back to do something that if found out would destroy their relationship, yet even if not found out, the something would hurt their partner. That was a very selfish, manipulative, and callous act that speaks volumes. This woman needs serious therapy and self-reflection before ever entering another serious relationship. It's awful that people think they can just throw away people's stuff when it bothers them. Stupid that she thought that he wouldn't notice or care when she knew the sentimental value attached. Wild that she would risk throwing away a whole-ass relationship because she couldn't stand a doll. It's great that OP didn't cave, and the only thing that was ultimately thrown away was the trash. Our next post is titled, Parents Expect Me, 17 female, to stay past turning 18 to continue to be a live-in nanny and help them with their house payments. I have been sitting on this for a very long time, and have waited until I was at a semi-safe/moderately safe place to say anything. I'm hopefully moving out on the 28th and feel like I can post this, and whether they see it or not, there is nothing that they can truly do at this point. It's kind of long, but this is a long story that took place over several years, so I feel like I've condensed it with enough detail to make somewhat sense. I've been watching my 3 younger siblings since I was 14, and we had just moved to a different state, and at that point, the youngest kid was 2.5, now 6. Up until then, I'd never had a very good relationship with any of them, barely hung out with them, stayed mostly at or with my grandmother, didn't even have a good relationship with my parents, and was resentful of them because of my parents', mum and stepdad, very obvious favoritism of them. It started small, just an hour or two, and then quickly devolved into watching them for hours on end into the night when they made friends with neighbors and went out, to watching them nearly full time, and when the parents were home, just before the pandemic hit. I watched them with no pay, unless you count them feeding, housing, not giving me to an abuser as payment like they did, until then. And they started with $25 a week. No exceptions, and it didn't matter how much I actually worked, and I never actually touched any cash. They would buy things for me if they had money on the side from their own spending. The pandemic made it very, very easy to guilt trip me into watching them all the time and sacrificing everything. There are several different stories I could tell, but some of the quick points are, I let them pull me from school to do all virtual despite having some apprehension. They pressed this solely so I could watch and pick up the kids after they went to school. I let them pay me, and then hold this pay over my head. I'd be nothing without them. They'll just not even offer the gracious money they're offering, and make me do it anyway. They'll kick me out or stop feeding me, etc. So I let them continue to pull me out of school for my senior year. Which is another long story, and I'd always said through the pandemic that I wanted to do my senior year in person. I let them ruin my relationship with my girlfriend for a long while before I put my foot down and repaired it. Going steady since sophomore year, as serious as a high school level relationship can get. And I let them take my opportunity to get a job/license and work for them instead with 45 to 60 hour work weeks babysitting. These kids are not angels. Hell, not even part angel. They go unchecked and undisciplined. I am the only one they even semi-listen to, and that's a 50-50 chance. They run around like banshees, hit and scream, and are just generally bad kids. They're constantly on a screen and have been for as long as I remember, watching scary videos and murdery videos, and things that generally young children shouldn't be watching. They stay up as late as I do, as I've had trouble sleeping literally since I was a baby, and I'm trying to help myself without becoming dependent on melatonin and such, so I don't become immune, and sometimes even later. For reference, that can mean 4 to 5 to 6 a.m., and I sometimes get knocks at my door asking for food and such. It's not just me who says these things. This includes my grandmother who watches them when we go back to our hometown, my family who sees them, my girlfriend's family who has seen them act this way, their teachers, etc. also say this, or they just say it more politely. The youngest is the worst, going the most unchecked and ignored, and when she's bad it's well, oh, she has ADHD, so... No, it is not an excuse, not even a diagnosis. You just don't parent her, and don't want to help her, Mum. I have ADD, diagnosed, unmedicated, because my mum refused to medicate me after the last pills made it difficult to maintain weight and gave me facial tics. I understand that sometimes it's not fun or easy for people to be around me, but even I can say I don't think she has ADHD, or even if she does have it, I think she has a mum who doesn't discipline her and instead encourages bad behaviors. It's ridiculous. The middle kid is becoming more mature at 9, but still unchecked and doesn't listen. The oldest, who is now 12, is realizing his parents don't actually parent, and is becoming resentful as the younger girls get favored because he's getting prepped to be the next me. I understand the whole older kids babysitting younger kids thing, but you cannot expect a 14-year-old who barely recognized her siblings' voices to be able to cope well with that kind of childcare job. Hell, I don't even really like children, and even as a kid, I didn't really hang out with younger kids than me because I found them annoying. Ironic, I know, because I was probably just as annoying. Making me do this made me resent them even more, in all honesty. It was exhausting, and made me a resentful person for a while. And I'm still very angry and have a lot of pent-up frustration that I'm trying to work through. I don't think I've ever been capable of caring properly for these kids, in my honest opinion, and they should have either a real babysitter or after-school care. I have had several breakdowns, and just am not mentally well enough for this job, and my concerns and valid points for this have been ignored. When we moved towns, 23-minute drive between my house and my girlfriend's house for reference, they got very, very bold. My biological dad is dead, and because of that, my mother receives a survivor's check with stipulations as to where it can be spent. My entire family bashes her for refusing to use that money correctly and abusing it, and it's an extremely sore and sensitive spot between us, especially with all of the jokes that they use my check for themselves and that the money isn't really for me but them, and how they quite literally refused to let me stay in my hometown where I was happier and healthier because that meant they would lose the check. They have openly admitted they were never, ever going to let me know of its existence because they didn't want me to know. I found out the only reason they can afford the house we're in is because of the check. They depend on this despite having a second job and well-paying government jobs. You might say, well, the pandemic, but no. They've admitted if they just cut back on frivolous things like that $1,000 armchair they bought in December, and my mum's purses, and all of their bullcrap, they would be able to do it on their own. They guilt-trip me by saying that if I don't stay, they will lose the house and it'll be all my fault. Eventually, it all came to a head in October. I'd put my foot down and demanded I get a job. I needed money for college and had nothing to show for my life and had no way to pay for college, not even get a license to get there at that point. This ended in a huge blowout fight where I did some things I regret. I called names, kicked a recycling can over, punched a wall, got in my parents' face when they did mine, essentially stooped to their level, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but I will own up to my mistakes. And she trashed my room and told me she would never let me leave, and that as long as I was her kid, I had no say in anything, and that my life was hers to control, essentially. She went on a rampage, saying how she would take all contact to everyone that I knew away, and how she would make everyone hate me, and how she'd make it so I couldn't physically leave because I was all alone and had no one. I am extremely afraid of this. I'm afraid of people leaving me. I'm afraid of people not coming back, and she knew this and she said it all. I snapped out of it at that point, realized I had a scared dog upstairs who would be coming back to my bedroom with glass everywhere because my mum threw a box of 20 or so glass bottles on the floor, which were collected for recycling, realized I had a girlfriend who I loved, who I wanted in my life, school to attend that I couldn't if she were to take my laptop, and that I would still have to watch her kids to just effing eat and actually survive here. I immediately backpedaled and apologized and went along with what she was saying. I was promised therapy, pills, help with the kids, whatever bullcrap she spilled out, and I knew everything was a lie. I refused to watch them until we had an agreement, and then I was paid $32 a week flat. I'd be leaving Friday to Sunday for a real job in my old town with my girlfriend, so I lost Friday's money. Whatever, I'd be making way more at the new job. Supposed to be in cash, but that stopped about a month afterward, where I was put on a Cash App card, but only with whatever they could spare depending on my wants and their extra money that they didn't spend. Since then, I've been threatened to be held at my house so I would be fired with my phone turned off because my job's policy is if you don't show up to a scheduled shift without any kind of notice, with an exception to emergencies of course, then you're fired. They run a formal restaurant that is successful and cannot risk liabilities like people who don't show up, which I understand. I've been avoiding a bank account because I don't want her to have access to my money. I cash my money with my girlfriend and hold it at her house, not mine. I'm currently looking for a car, and am currently waiting to make a DMV appointment the week of my birthday, hopefully, along with a bank/savings account and walker's license. They've been getting more and more aggressive with saying that I'm not leaving, to the point that it's mentioned at least once a day. At first it was, you aren't leaving until you graduate so we have someone to watch the kids. Then it was, they needed my check to pay their mortgage and wouldn't get it unless I stayed. And now it's that I'll stay up until the end, or beginning of, depending on their mood I guess, summer to help them in their time of need. They've threatened to put me in a psych ward, to have me arrested, to give my family members up for things they have asked them to do to guilt trip me, and to have my girlfriend's parents arrested for harboring me as a runaway after I'm 18. I don't think they can do that unless I'm in danger, which I'm not, and her family can pass a wellness check with flying colors, which I agree with. I can also prove that I have a paying job, nutritious food to eat, and a safe place to stay. I am not a nanny. I have been prevented in furthering my life, and I've been withheld from getting the necessary things to survive on my own. I owe nothing to them or their kids, and in self-preservation, have to let them be on their own and figure out their own crap. I didn't want kids. I didn't buy a house I couldn't afford and depend on a government check to help me get along. I need to go to school to get the kind of job I want. I'll answer any questions in the comments. And edit, I would like to thank every single person in the comments. I appreciate all the kind words and advice I've received, and am taking a lot of it to heart. Crap hit the fan only about 3 or 4 days after I posted this, and the situation is ever evolving and more complicated than I'd like to admit. I will post again by the end of the week with a full update and explanation of everything that happened, and until then, would like anyone who is concerned to know that both my dog and I are safe for the time being. And now in the comments, those are not loving people. They are parasites who want to leech from you. Get out of there as soon as possible. Find any and all important documents you can and hide them somewhere safe. I am so sorry that you are having to go through this. Is there an adult that you could talk to, or maybe your girlfriend's parents could help? If you can trust them enough, I would seriously try to get their help. Run as far as you can, OP, and don't look back. And OP replies, I have my birth certificate, social security card, and a copy of my dad's death certificate at her house tucked away in her mum's filing cabinet. My girlfriend's parents are helping me move out on the 28th and taking me, my dog, and my stuff. Mostly essentials like clothes and sentimental stuff, but I'm especially spiteful of the bed that I had to pay for because they refused to get me one after my futon was putting me in so much pain that I was in tears and want to take that to give to their 6 dogs as a big dog bed. They've extended me the offer they have with their own children because they consider me one of their own, which is, as long as I'm working and in school, they'll cover food and housing until I graduate because they want to see me succeed. We didn't want to risk running before then because of the runaway laws possibly backfiring on us, but I plan on giving them a 2 weeks notice on the 14th and recording their reactions for my own protection, voice recordings, phone in pocket. Mostly a courtesy because it'll give them 2 weeks to find a babysitter or contact the school for their after-school programs. If it gets violent, I'm leaving then and there and just have to call and they'll back me up. If it doesn't, I'll wait, but I don't plan on staying beyond the 28th for anything. I've also covered them holding me at my house with my boss, and she said she would rather have me than not, and said to just let her know if crap hits the fan, which I am extremely grateful for, and am planning on getting them a thank you gift for. I also took my teacher aside on a private Google Meet and told her about me switching counties and credits not transferring, and they have said that they will make an exception for me since I'm so close to graduating and transferring means I'll need another year. I'm extremely grateful and lucky that I have many people like this to help me, and I understand wholeheartedly that this could be completely flipped. Do not give them 2 weeks notice. If you do, they will do everything in their power to keep you there. Let them know as you are starting to move out. Also, make sure that someone is outside waiting. If you don't start coming out with your stuff within a certain time, have them call the police to make sure you can peacefully move out. You owe them nothing, especially not a 2-week notice that you were leaving. Also, make sure the local police know that you're okay and you are a legal 18-year-old and do not want your parents to be informed as to where you live. Also, try and find any info you can about the money from your dad, even if it's just the name of the lawyer's office or something. They seem like the type of people that will try and collect what is yours, even after you are gone. And OP replies, I'm working with my girlfriend's mom to go through the steps to get the check either transferred to her or me, or terminated if I can't. That money isn't for someone to profit off of freely and can go to someone who needs it. And now, on to the update. My dog and I are safely moved out and okay. A lot went down in the past 2 weeks, and my mental health wasn't too great after leaving, so my update is a bit late, as I didn't want to just babble nonsense and overwhelm myself further. I do want to state before you read this post that I understand that some of my actions weren't necessarily the best choices, and that I know some of my actions were influenced by guilt tripping and manipulation. I'm okay with my current situation/agreement as it's incredibly temporary, and I don't think there would have been a more peaceful resolution. A few days after posting my original entitled parent story, I revealed to them that I was leaving. I did this because they were already starting to poke around and ask questions, and I knew they were going to find out either way. I wanted to be a bit in control of the situation and didn't want to risk getting caught off guard. I can say honestly it was the best solution, knowing what I know now and what happened after I told them. I attempted to talk to them calmly with my girlfriend and dog in the car across the street and me as the only one in the house. It was a safeguard in case anything got physically violent, because if it did, I would walk out and leave and would 100% tell police. I didn't feel safe if they continued to pursue me. This backfired a bit as they were very, very upset and said things I just can't forgive them for, but I'd already anticipated the freakout. I was told that I would be cutting off all my bridges to them, and if I ever had to ask them for help or come back, that I'd be doing every house chore that they could think of, and I'd have to quit my job to watch the kids 24/7, even on weekends. That my relationship with my girlfriend was abusive and unsafe and unhealthy, and that I was manipulated by her to move in. That they didn't want me anymore, that I was screwing them over, and that it didn't matter if I was trying to better my life because it didn't benefit them, etc. I would like to point out that they had told me in the fight that they hoped that I wouldn't lose my job because I wasn't leaving for the next 2 weeks, and how that would look on me for applying for new ones. I didn't let on that I already talked to my boss. I had anticipated and even heard much of this before, so I just kind of sat quietly and reiterated that I wasn't changing my mind on moving out. They still weren't happy, but I talked to my girlfriend in the car for a while afterward and eventually sent her home after calming down. My mother had already contacted my grandmother, someone whose opinions means a lot to me, to try and convince me to stay until at least the end of the school year. She had my grandmother bug me until about a day before I left and try to guilt trip me into staying. My mother also used the fact that my grandfather has cancer. How are you going to get up to par? You're not even going to see Pappy before he dies. Against me and other older family members on my dad's side to try and convince me to stay by saying if I don't stay, they won't take me up there and it is expensive to go. I refused to stay, and it ended in a few days of quiet tension between all of us before we started talking again. I was then told that I could actually leave for work, and that she said that when she was mad. Why would you think that would stand? It resulted in me leaving for the weekend. My most important valuables had been moved out, stuff like my dead dad's hat, stuff from my baby box, some trinkets from family, etc. We fought for the remainder of the 2 weeks, going back and forth on compromises and what I was going to do and how I was going to care for myself. I will point out the big fights and talks, as they are important. After coming back from that weekend, I sat down with them per their request to talk about potential situations. They said they genuinely couldn't afford the house and childcare, showed me that no one was even responding to their ads, and that after-school care services were all booked in our area. I said fine, then let's talk about it, but I'm A, not giving up any days I could potentially work at my job, and B, not agreeing to anything at this point because I need time to think. The potential plan we came up with was I come home on Sundays, my stepdad would pick me up, and my girlfriend would pick me up Wednesday to take me to work in the same fashion of how we'd do it on Fridays. I walked away from that conversation with both of us agreeing that I agreed to nothing we talked about. I then got texted later that night, 1-ish in the morning, asking if potentially 8 to 9 p.m. was good for a Sunday pickup. I tried to avoid the question and ask something else, but he was persistent until I finally said, yeah, that could potentially work if we do that. Intentionally vague / not agreeing that it was a permanent solution. My girlfriend refused to drive me back and forth, which I agreed with as it's an hour's drive back and forth, and as they needed me, and because they refused to help me get my own license when I wanted and needed it, they should be the ones to drive me. I came up with a solution of, well, maybe I could give them Wednesdays if I had them off. Otherwise, the other babysitter they'd managed to find for part-time work could do the Wednesdays that I couldn't. They flipped again, saying I was going back on our agreement and I was lying and a manipulative little crap, and that I wasn't being reasonable and I was again effing them over. I reiterated I didn't agree to anything. I never agreed to even stay in any capacity, and I was pissed that they attempted to gaslight me into believing that I did. It ended in another argument, where very much things were said again, but I just kind of ignored it, stuck to my guns, and they relented. I didn't give them Wednesdays because I wasn't comfortable with it anymore, because I couldn't trust them to get me to my job on Wednesday reliably, and I didn't really want to be there more than I had to, and their other babysitter agreed to take Wednesdays. It ended in an argument over Messenger while she was at work, where she essentially told me that when I worked next, I could pack my stuff up and leave. She then texted my girlfriend and her parents a huge list of all my problems, and how I'm just using them and waiting for my chance to screw them over too, including discussing my psychiatric hospital visits and past parental abuse. Hospital visits mostly because of the parental abuse, and I was freshly 13 at my last visit. They said they dismissed it because they'd A, known me for 3 years at this point, and what my mum was saying wasn't lining up with what they saw, and B, they weren't going to take my mum's word when she was acting crazy and revealing things they weren't even sure if I was comfortable discussing out of a therapist's office. I am incredibly grateful for them, and have told them that if I ever do anything to wrong them, I expect punishment. but that I'd never intentionally wrong them. I really do love them like my family, and would protect them like they are. She came home, tried to say that me buying myself and my siblings pizza the other night was trying to get brownie points before screwing them over, and that I was being an ass. I had no ulterior motives with the pizza. I just wanted pizza and felt guilty ordering some and not sharing because the kids had wanted pizza for the past 2 weeks, so I just bought them some too. I was prepared to leave that night and had all my stuff packed, and said as such, and she flipped again. It resulted in a fight where she slandered my deceased father. I'm not sure if what she said was true, and I'm not really willing to find out. Name-called, said that I would come crawling back, that she would always love me as her firstborn but hated the person I was, begged for me to stay and help. It ended with both of us walking away unhappy until we talked about it later that night again. What it's come down to is this. I work Monday and Tuesday, they drive me to and from, meaning they pick me up Sunday and drop me back off Tuesday. My stepdad gets a work-from-home job in April after training through March, and then I no longer have to come over at all, and they will leave me alone. They want nothing to do with my dog at all, even just to spite me. My mum doesn't like him, and neither does my stepdad, so they said that if I didn't take him, they'd dump him. I scheduled my permit test wrong, and it got rescheduled for the 16th. But good news is, I have studied enough that I'm 100% sure that I'll pass, and my girlfriend's mom said not to pay for a walker's license because it's a very short wait, and after I get the permit, I can get the bank account and such. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my social security check, and am in contact with the office and school, and trying to figure out how to change the stuff. My mom wants half of it, and she said she'll be quiet if she gets it. So I'm debating just sacrificing that half for the sake of peace of mind and sanity, since I have a steady job and am planning on picking up another after April. I'm sorry if this isn't what people wanted, but I've seen what they do to people to get revenge if you F them over. The way she talked to me during the last fight tells me she no longer sees me as her kid in any capacity, just somebody that she will F over if I don't at least agree to the bare minimum like I did. But after April, I'm no longer useful, and I will get forgotten just like everyone else, which is why I'm even agreeing to it in the first place. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. I understand some of this is a bit rambly and emotional, but I'm not sure how else to write it. And now in the comments, you shouldn't give them any money at all. You save them enough by babysitting. Make a clean break, especially after March, since stepdad will be work from home. I'm glad you're getting yourself out, and thank you for providing an update. But OP, do not give your parents a single cent of your social security checks or any paycheck. That money is for you to build your own life. They are adults who need to make their own financial decisions. You are not hurting your family by keeping your rightful earned and owed money to yourself. I don't know if I read it correctly, but she agreed to help them for a month after moving out until the stepdad starts his work-from-home job. Those people are evil, misusing her survivor's benefits check and treating her like a 24/7 nanny. And the saddest thing is, who knows if the checks will continue after 18. Oof. I just looked it up, and I could be misunderstanding, but it seems her benefits will stop when she graduates high school, unless she is disabled. She can also apply to get benefits during college. My siblings and I got them in high school, and now in college. These parents need to be reported. I hope OP has stuff documented because, Jesus Christmas, OP should just run and cut their losses. They were never anything but a slave to their parents. They will try to keep abusing and bringing OP back into the fold. Yup, this abuse and gaslighting will never stop. They are fully using OP and will abandon them the second they don't get their way again. I'd take pleasure in telling them to go F themselves and then never seeing them again. I already feel bad for the 12-year-old. No kid should develop a "I'm going to be the next servant" type of awareness. If the OP really wanted to give his or her parents something to cry about, they should report them to DSS. Just lay out all of the abuse the parents put them through, the parentification, the financial abuse, the emotional abuse, the indentured servitude, everything. Then tell DSS the 12-year-old is being set up to be the next Jane Eyre in this house, and that they need to help these children out before they become enslaved to their parents. But wait, there's more. Find out if their state has a system of guardians ad litem, get the contact info for the GAL office, and then stop by there and ask to speak with the coordinator. Move heaven and earth to get a volunteer GAL for the siblings, not an attorney. Getting Mumsy and Daddy caught up with the family court, DSS, and takes no crap GAL will make them curse the day that they were born. I don't think this is over. Me neither. I have an ugly feeling in my stomach that as soon as they realize OP really isn't going back and they can't manipulate and abuse them anymore, that they are going to do something very ugly. For OP's sake, I hope they have everything documented and safeguarded. I feel they're planning something way over the top, but I'm really hoping that they end up doing something illegal and they have to pay for every single thing they did to this poor kid. And that's where I'm going to end this one for today, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.